Hello, everyone. My name is Cody. I look after developer experience at Sentry. Today, we're going to jump in and play around with a little workshop that we've put together around your first steps in Sentry. So normally we do pretty advanced topics. We try to stay pretty deep, but every once in a while, it's nice to go back and do more of like the foundation stuff and make sure that people understand like the initial setup and some of the ways to make sure that Sentry is set up in a way that's like working really well for you to manage your environment at like a kind of a ground floor level. So we're going to focus on a lot of that stuff. We're still going to get into some of the advanced things, but a lot of this is really going to be tied around like what do your first steps inside of Sentry look like. So I'm going to fire up sharing. We're going to get right into it. So give me one moment here. Go in and share the entire screen. All right. So you should be seeing my screen or the workshop guide we're going to work out of today. Made a lot of updates to this last night. So there might be some things that are still need some clean up, but it should be pretty good. If you see anything that's off, there's this report a bug in the bottom right corner. You can click on that, and you'll be able to use that to go in and like fill out any of the things that are incorrect, or at least give us a little bit of a heads up on anything that you feel like is incorrect that needs to be cleaned up. So that could be content that's not clear. That could be UI parts that are inaccurate. That could be things that are just wrong. Or you can send compliments, like compliments too. So whatever you want, that's the best way to get feedback in, other than just dropping us notes in chat when you can. So we're going to jump in and get started. There's a little bit of a setup flow as a part of this one, just because of some of the ways that we handle the different exercises. So I just want to make sure that we have plenty of time to handle those. So we'll jump into getting started. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to fork this repo from the main repo that we have set up. So we'll fork it into your GitHub account. Then we'll go in, clone it down locally, and we'll get started setting up Sentry. So we're going to first pop into GitHub. I'm going to hold Command and click on this, and it's going to open up the repo here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so we can get a little better view. We're going to go ahead and fork a copy of it. It's available in my repo. You can name it whatever you want. Naming doesn't necessarily matter on this, but we can change it to whatever you might want it to be. So instead of being the AI workshop, I'm just going to go Sentry build first steps. And I'm going to go ahead and do create fork. And then once it forks, we're going to go in and we're actually going to break it from the fork network. So it's not a part of, that doesn't have the upstream fork anymore. So you can do that by going into settings and then scrolling all the way down to the bottom, and you can leave the fork network here. And that just makes it basically its own standalone repo that we can do all the things we want against and not worry about the upstream stuff. So cool. Sentry build first steps. It's available in my account now. I believe the next step what it has us do is go and clone it. So if you change the name, make sure you update the command here. In my case, I am going to just go ahead and copy that. So I've got the name right here. I'll copy that. I'm going to drop into my ghosty terminal. I'm going to do a git clone github.com coded, and then drop in that repo. I'll jump into that directory, and I'm going to go ahead and just open it up in Cursor in case I need to do any fun edity stuff. So cool. We are all set up. This is the same workshop we use for our AI-based workshop that goes through and like sets up agent monitoring and all the good stuff. It's a Sentry Academy, so it's like a learning platform. We will end up building Sentry Academy internally as like an education site for you all to use. But we did this as like a mock just to show the concept. So we have a front end as well as a back end. The front end React front end. Back end is just Node and Express. So all pretty straightforward stuff. Pretty common architecture things. Cool. So we're set there. We have to go and stage up a few things inside of here. So we're inside the repo now. Let's go ahead and copy. I highly recommend using these copy buttons on the commands whenever possible. Maybe PNPMI is maybe not the best example, but some of the commands get pretty lengthy. So just making sure that you have a good way to make sure those are getting incorrect. So I'll go ahead and do the install. It's going to run through and install all the packages that are part of this repo, obviously. And then we're going to start staging out some of the backend content. So we set up the base URLs. So we'll hit this. And then we also set up the default port for the app to run on. We use Neon as part of this database or as part of this project. Neon's a database provider. They have a really cool ephemeral database product that you can use. And so when you run this command, it's going to go and just spin up a Postgres database that we can use inside of the project. It'll burn itself down after 3 days, but it gets it set up and going and gives you access to a real Postgres database. So we use Postgres as the backend for this, so it stores all the course data. And then we also use Drizzle to manage that, just because everyone loves Drizzle. Who doesn't love Drizzle? And so using like Postgres and Drizzle in this way, we also get instrumentation automatically for database performance. So I'm going to show that as part of this workshop also, because it's something that comes out pretty easily. I see you out there, Eli. How's it going, buddy? So cool. We have our database up and running, and we're going to go ahead and seed the database now. And we'll go ahead and run these commands. And what it's doing now is it's creating all like the baseline data inside the database. So some sample courses, sample user stuff, all the basic configs, just to make sure that when we load up the app, it actually loads up correctly. So now we're going to jump out and we'll go ahead and turn this on. And in a few moments, we should have it up. So we're going to get these errors here for the OpenAI functionality. We're not going to use the AI modules in this one, so we're actually okay with it not working in this case. So command left click, we'll open this up, and with any luck, oops, it loaded up all the way in. We need to log out. Cool. Sentry Academy is up and running. We'll get a nice little error here when this isn't working. So I'm going to show a couple of tricks on how to fix that. But for the most part, our app is up and running, and we're good to actually start doing real workshop-y things. So we're getting an error. You saw that error pop up. We're going to go ahead and get Sentry going inside of this now. And so first, we're going to go and install the React SDK. We're going to install the React SDK. We're going to set up the React router integration, and then also set up the backend as well. So there's a lot of copy and paste in here. A lot of this is boilerplate. You can find almost all of it inside of our docs. Most of the content from this just came from docs anyways. So you can copy this stuff in, and a lot of this would apply if you were setting up Sentry inside of your own React project. So it all pretty much carries over. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab here. And we're going to go ahead and start installing things. So we got that. Now we're going to go in and we're going to hit this instrumentation file here and set up the Sentry instrumentation. So we have to create this inside of the front end src instrument directory. So front end src, and we're going to create a instrument.ts file. Had to double check, make sure I spelled it right. One thing I didn't update, this was a mistake. I meant to update it. We're not running logs as experiment anymore. Those are a real live feature. So I'm just going to drop that off. If you don't drop it off, it's still going to work fine. I just feel the need to clean that up. And then also I'm going to need to go and create my front end and back end projects inside of Sentry and set up the DSNs for those. So we're going to do that in a moment here. I just want to get through a few of the other steps first, and then we'll go back and properly set that up. So we've got in, we've set up the first file. We're going to go now and update our main.tsx entry point, which is the main part of our app. So I'll save this file. It's going to need this updated anyways, so we'll come back to it. Copy all this, replace it. Cool. We have that all set now. That just sets up the core of like Sentry error catching. We're going to create a error boundary component inside of the components directory, shockingly enough. So now we have our error boundary. And then we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it into app.tsx after the imports. And this is going to set up all of the different error boundaries throughout the application. So we'll grab this, hop into app.tsx. We'll come right underneath all of these imports, delete all of that, paste this in, and we should be good to go. Clear this out because we're not actually using it in this one. We will save. And it's still not going to load because of the problems we're having in with that error that we're going to fix in a bit. We're also going to set up source maps really quick. Source maps are definitely one of those big parts of the first part of the Sentry journey. I don't have those in the guide, but we do it right here. Source maps lets you see exactly where in your code an error is happening at. So like when something crashes or you start having a problem, you'll be able to track exactly where it's happening at. So we do this in the Sentry wizard. So come in, paste this, and it's going to take us through setting it up. So we're going to continue anyway. We will use Sentry SaaS. I do have a Sentry account. This is going to be where I'm going to create my project in. So I'll come down here. I'll create a new project. Well, I'm not actually seeing the button. That's unfortunate. It's probably because I have a lot of projects in here. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll actually just use the one from yesterday. So you could come in here and create a new project if you wanted to. I'm just going to use this Academy front end live stream one that I set up yesterday. So we'll continue. We are using Vite in this case for the front end. We are using NPM. It's going to install a Vite plugin. It might fail because I have some specific things set up in my project. Yeah, I have some weird config set up inside of this right now. But you can go in and finish up that install manually if you wanted to. It's pretty straightforward. So that failed, but it's okay. It's kind of expected because of a lacking config. So we'll switch back to the guide now, cruise through the process, and we'll do the back end. So we'll switch back up to the top. We'll add the node for the server side. We're going to go do the same instrumentation setup again. In here, it's a little bit different. So we'll pop back into cursor, head into server, and we're just going to create our instrument.ts file here. Paste it in again. We're going to clear out those enable logs here, or clear out the experiment just to be thorough. This is not going to work because we don't have the DSN set up. What's up, Will? Good seeing you, buddy. But we will set up our front end, our back end projects, and we'll come back and edit these and add these in. So inside of our index.tsx, we're going to go ahead and bring this in. There's two separate things we need to bring in. One, we need to bring in the instrumentation file we just created. And then we also need to import the node SDK. So back in here we go. We'll hit index. We'll drop these in. Now, I do want to call it, if I did this right now, this would be a problem. Like it would actually break the setup. And the reason, or it wouldn't break, but I would not get all the instrumentation I would expect. We need to bring Sentry in as early as possible in the app lifecycle so that everything gets hooked up correctly. So now bringing this up here, we'll make sure that all of the hooks are installed correctly. And so we actually get all of the integrations in. We're not using this yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to grab this setup express handler and we're going to drop down beneath where our routes get set up. But before our error handling, and we're going to paste that in, and this is going to give us all the express integration stuff that we know and love. We'll do this also for the server side, specifically the source map setup. We'll do server. Need to fix that command. That's a good one. If anybody threw in the feedback there, I got to fix that. We'll run this. Continue. Sentry SAS. Yes. Use that one. We'll grab that. We'll let it run through. And then we'll go and grab same thing. I have a config, again, same thing. I have a config issue that's broken inside of there. We're going to go grab those DSNs real quick. So I'm going to come into Sentry. I'm going to go into my projects list. And I'm going to go FE. I have this Academy FE live stream one here. Drop into settings. And I'm going to go grab the DSN. So I'll head over here. Client key DSN. We'll go to our front end. Source instrument. We'll replace this here. Save. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for our back end. Oops, I dropped out of the projects. Dual settings. Client keys, cool. There's our client key that we're going to use. I'll grab that. Go into our server instrumentation and drop this in. And now before I save, I want to open this back up and show how it looks. So when I save that, or now I hit save, it's going to reload. And you can see a whole bunch of stuff just happened. I'll close this other window. We don't need it. Since Sentry connected now, since the DSN's available, it went ahead and loaded all the different integrations that we automatically include as part of the core SDK. And so you can see all of this turned on. And we also get the hooks into Postgres here. So all of these are adding instrumentation into Sentry now. So Sentry's working inside of the project. All of this is wired up, and we can get started. Now, one of the things, if we go double check our guide, I think that is the end of the first one. No, it's not. We're going to set up the GitHub integration. This is absolutely one of the most important things to do early on because it lets Sentry see the actual code base, so that when we do debugging with like seer or other actions, we actually can see the code inside of your application. So we're going to go in and we're going to set up this integration now. So back into Sentry, we're going to go into settings, integrations, and we have GitHub right here. Now, if you haven't installed this, you'll have to go in and install the app and configure, and that'll install it inside of your GitHub environment. I've already set it up for mine. So I'm going to come into configurations, and I'm going to drop into one of mine. And then I have a bunch of my repos here, but I'm going to add a new one. And this one, Sentry build first steps. That's the branch we created. And so now that repo is available. It's been added. And now if I came in and if I went into FE, I can add that to my view here. I can then also go BE and add this to my view, apply. I'm going to undo this home agent one. That's for a different project. Now this view is set up for just this project that I'm working in, both the front end and the back end. I want to be able to save this and use this view later on. So I can come back to it. I would absolutely recommend doing this inside of your environments. Configuring views is a really good way to be able to get to like information that really matters to you quickly. So I'm going to say Academy live stream. I'm going to have it starred so it shows up top. And now whenever I come in here, I can go into issues and I can hit this Academy live stream one, and it'll be available for me. I'll move it up to the top, and it'll drop me right into this. So if I was to go into one of my different ones, like this other Sentry Academy one, now I can come back and drops me right in with the same configs that I had before. So if I went in and changed this to the last 15 minutes, for example, saved it again, it'll always be that way. So I've got my view set up. Everything's good there. I have it set up the GitHub integration for Seer yet. So I'm going to come into my settings view. I'm going to come up to search, and I'm going to do Seer automation. Now I set this up yesterday, but we're going to change it for this workshop. So I've got a different repo set up here. For me, I'm going to go ahead and remove this repository because it's the one I want to use. But in this case, I'm going to come in and add a repo. And we're going to go first steps, check that box. And I'm going to set this to run for all issues. So what we're setting up here is Seer's automation. Seer is our AI debugging agent. I definitely recommend setting it up earlier because it's going to start catching issues for you earlier. I have a lot of trust in Seer, so I have it run on all issues that come through. So I have it look at every issue, do a scan of it, try to figure out what's broken, and give me the fix back for it. And I have it go all the way down, at least to root cause. I'm going to have it go and do the actual pull request all the way through. So it has the full set of data available to go and fix any issue. I'm going to say set up other projects. I'm going to go BE. Oh, that's the repo that I want to use. Oh, this is for all the other repos. Never mind. So we're going to go back to Seer automation here. We're going to go BE. We'll grab this one. We'll replace the repo in the same way because that's the old repo that we were not wanting to use. We'll add this and we'll do first steps. Cool. Similar thing, all issues. I'm going to change this to pull request and we're set up. So now where we're at right this second, we've set up Sentry. We have error monitoring all set up. Inside of the configs that we brought in, we also have a session replay configured. So we'll go and take a look at our instrumentation file. We're bringing in tracing as a ground floor. So we have the automatic instrumentation from tracing set up. We have replays set up. So we're getting session replays every time someone uses our application. We're getting the React router integration. So we're able to trace all of these different functionality and capture that as part of performance monitoring inside of tracing. That's great. We have logs turned on. We're going to add another integration to make this even better. And then we're setting up our sample rates. So we come in and we set up our sample rates to 1.0. So we're always going to capture traces for every transaction. I could turn this down and do 0.5. Oops, not the whole thing. I could turn this down and do 0.5 instead. And what that would do is it will only sample 50% of transactions coming through. And so like this is a good way to control the volume that's coming in. We have a module on this in a bit. So I'm going to leave this at 1 for now. And I set it up with capturing 100% of my replays and errors as part of this, just so we can see them come through. And so in just really about, call it 15, 20 minutes, we've gotten pretty far in the overall setup. On the back end, back-end's a little bit lighter. We have logs turned on, and then we have traces turned on also. So the first module we get into, and then we also have the GitHub integration now set up, and we have Seer watching for any issues. So right out of the gate, if we stopped here and did nothing else, we would at least have errors coming through, traces showing up, and we would be able to see replays for users. And if issues started coming in, Seer would go and try to fix them. So we've already got a ton out of this setup. The first thing I like to do inside of a project, and just so as a heads up, this is how I set up every one of my projects out of the gates. Like whenever I'm building a side project or I'm hacking on something or I get with a customer and I'm showing them how to set up Sentry, this is like the minimum setup that I go in with because you get a lot of telemetry out of this. The next thing I do is I come into the integrations and I'm going to go Sentry.console logging integration. Oops, not console integration, console logging integration. And what this will do is automatically send console logs over into Sentry. So all the things that you normally stash in code to do a console log out for like debugging, now we're going to kick those over to Sentry by default. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this, save it, head into instrument. I'm going to go server, and I'm going to do the exact same thing over here. Integrations. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining. Paul is on my team and is hanging out on YouTube answering questions for us. And I'm going to add this here. So now front end and back end, I'm getting these logs by default, console logs by default. So cool. We are all set on that front. We're going to check out the guide real quick just to see where we're at. We've set up Seer. We've already started coming in and building out logs, but we're going to add a little bit more special log stuff to this. So we have our login form component where things are actually broken right now. And what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll trigger a couple errors just so we can see those hit in Sentry. Click it a bunch of times. There we go. In a few moments, those should start coming through here. I might have to reload the app, but I don't think so. It should be all good. They should come through pretty fast. Let's do a quick refresh and see. There we go. We got some stuff coming through. Already out of the gate, Seer's kicking into gear on these to go and fix them. I'm going to show you some shortcuts on how to fix these. We can see 19 events because I refreshed a bunch of times. If I come in here, because we set up replays already, we can actually watch all those times I refreshed, all the times I clicked the button. Those are showing up. So I see a full replay of how the user is seeing the session. If I come in and click see full replay, I can go in and I can see the AI summary. This is still building out because it just came in, but this will actually tell you exactly what was happening in that session. So somebody navigated the page and they clicked the button a lot of times. Good question on the is replay compatible? We do have session replay for React Native. Yes. So you can do mobile replays on React Native. And they're pretty cool. So cool. I see all this coming through. I can go in. I can see logs associated with this, right? So logs that are being fired in. I'm dumping some logs automatically in for some of the SSO functionality. All this stuff is showing up. I can see all the failures and where they're happening along with the error. So I'm getting a lot of good data in here from replays just out of the gate. So first steps, pretty successful so far. Like I said, Seer's running. Seer already came up with a solution and found it. It's actually moving down into the coding it up phase. It looks like it needs better access to the repo. Oh, it didn't fully set up. That's frustrating. Sentry build first steps. Cool, it's already added. Seer automation. Excuse me. Academy front end live stream. Let's double check the repos on this. I had the wrong repo set up. I went in and fixed it and didn't click the save button. That's the worst. So add the repo here. First steps, check that. Add repo, pull request. We'll just toggle that on and off just to make sure that it actually locks in. All repo, pull request. Cool. Let's go make sure that we got the other one set up too. Same thing. It didn't save on this one either. So we're going to remove this. Add the repo. First steps. Save it. We'll just toggle this just to make sure that it actually locks in the save there. Cool. Everything is properly set up now. So let's go back and let's have it rerun. So go up, start over. Still trying to access the wrong repo, mostly because I didn't clear it out beforehand. So let's just do one more check just to make sure before we cruise forward. Excuse me. Yeah, it's being a little difficult mostly because I just cleared it out, so we're changing it too fast in this case. So we'll confirm. Cool. Let's tab out now. Head back in. Yeah, we'll have to come back to this one. It's because of just changing it all so fast back and forth. So not a big deal. We can cruise forward. We are actually about to show the logging features right now, Nathan. So that's literally exactly what we're going to show right now. It's cool. Things are cranking and good. So we'll go in and we'll take a look at those logs. So we're going to go into Explore. We'll take a look at logs. And I'm sending a bunch of these in already, but I'm going to show how to go and add some additional ones. These are all coming in via that console logger integration that we set up. Now, we do strip PII data by default. You can come in and disable this if you want to. It's part of our just data scrubbing, and we do that to protect specific information from inside of your environment. So a lot of this is getting filtered because it has maybe identifying information that we don't necessarily want to share. But we can see some of this starts coming through, right? So in this case, I'm passing in parameters for some of these IDs, and all of this becomes searchable, right? So I could come in, and if I just wanted to be able to show this on the table, I could add this as a table column, and those would show up once we expand this out and go back a little further. There we go. So we can see these are showing up inside of there. Now, this is a kind of a poorly structured one because I'm just templating this one in. But if you go in, you can actually build out structured logs that bring this stuff in. So like, for example, I could come in and grab this parameter here that is on many of these. Add this as a table column, and that becomes something where I can see all like the actual replay information, for example. So I can come into edit table here, clear out that, save it, and now I can see all the replays just as an example. Now, talking about making this actually useful, what I like to do is come in to one of these, and I like to find the SDK name and version, and I like to add these as values, mostly because it lets me understand where this is coming from, whether it's the node server or the front end, and it becomes really easy for me to understand what version what version of the SDK I have installed across different projects. So now I can see both of those. If something was out of date, it's really easy to find that. All of this is searchable too, right? So I can come up here and I can look up like search by SDK name. I can see only node results. I can clear this out up here and I could say something like severity error, but text is sign in, right? I can come in and say I only want to see ones that are severity of error. And maybe I only want to see ones that have SSO in the text, right? I can come in and add all of that. That didn't show up because that's part of the structured field. But it becomes really easy. So template, message.template is SSO star, right? We can get in there, we can get crafty with wildcards also. So we can start getting in here and getting pretty detailed on what we search for. We can also do some basic aggregations in here. So I can come in and choose to group by things, right? So if I want to group by browser name, I could do that. And now I'm only going to see certain browser names first. I can see how these are totaled up on the right. And so if we had a lot more results in here, it would be easier to parse out. But again, all this is very searchable, very easy to pipe in. In the guide, we go through and we talk about bringing in some additional of these. Like, for example, we have this SSO logger, logger entry for SSO credentials that are being passed in. I can easily come in to my file. So this is inside of login form. Head back into cursor real quick. Login form. And that's in the handle SSO function. Oops, pop back up. Right now, we're not setting up the logger in here at all. I could easily come in and say, I want to drop this in. Oops, need to import Sentry first. And now I'd be capturing that one also. So SSO credentials generated. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go reload the app now. Make a couple more calls. Head back into Sentry. I'm going to clear out these searches that I had before. Let's see, what did I actually configure that? So that's a debug. So I can go severity is debug. Doesn't look like it's come through yet. Actually, let's go last hour. Clear that out. There we go. And in a few, it'll actually show up in here. I don't want us to spend a ton of time waiting for it to show up, but this is there now. And when I try to go in and sign in, eventually it will generate a logger statement off of this for debug and bring in these parameters also. So again, all of these are very easy, and we focused a lot on making sure the DX was really good for being able to add these. One of my favorite things to do in new projects is I'll go into docs on Sentry, I'll grab my SDK, I'll head into the logs, and we have this nice code snippet here that you can copy and drop into cursor and have it go and like instrument out. So I can come in, copy this, drop into cursor, and say set up logs in this file using this as a guide. Paste it, and it'll go through and do it and probably add a bunch more extra stuff that we don't necessarily need in this case. I did it for a specific file, and this is not that big of a file, so it's going to get a little a little messy. But we've already got it's going through to confirm everything's set up and start bringing these in. Now, right now we're in a broken state, right? So like we've got logs going and we're starting to bring these in. We can go in and add these to the back end, but it's better to do those on your own throughout the exercise. There's some details in this guide on what the different logging functions are, but these are also in docs. Let's go and fix this error that's not letting us log in. So one of the things I also like to set up very early in a project is the Sentry MCP server. And so you can get good information on the MCP server by going to mcp.sentry.dev. And in here, we can go into cursor and just install it in cursor. Now, the good thing for my setup is I already have the Sentry MCP installed and running. It uses OAuth, and so it's really easy to log in and have access to all the things that you're already set up with. I've got quite a few MCP servers going. I can take this alongside the error message and the seer fix that was in here, and I can use it to go and actually fix the problem that's happening. So I'll go in and I'll grab this. Let's see if it will find a solution, even though it's having some trouble with the repo. Yeah, it's mostly because of the repo issue. I can come in and grab this, open up a new cursor tab and say, fix this for me. And the Sentry MCP will take that information, go research it, find what's broken, and actually go fix it for us using Seer. So it'll pull in the root cause and solution from it and actually go and fix it so we can log in again. And so while that's running in the background, we added a bunch of stuff in here. Let's see if we actually go and run this, if we get better logs now. So go refresh. Refresh again. We'll hit logs. Grab our little time frame right here. And actually what we'll do is we'll do the last 5 minutes. Cool. So we see a bunch of stuff that was added in recently, or logs that just came through literally in the past minute. So a lot of things that were added starting to show up now. Again, if I came in, hit this, and I wanted to say, oh, it's not. Let me add it as a column right now. Cool. So that's all set. We have logging working. We have the integration working. We're fixing our login problem right now. Looks like it probably already fixed it. Let's go try it out. Aha, we're in. If I come up here and search, this is going to fail now because that's part of the workshop. We'll have that throw an error for us. Great. And let's talk a little bit about sample rates now while it finishes up its fix. So sample rates are really important as you start to grow like what your Sentry environment actually has inside of it. Mostly because if you keep everything at a 1.0 sample rate, so meaning we're sampling 100% of transactions, you're going to blow through any quotas that you have. So things like replays, traces, and spans, errors, all those are going to get blown through. So we definitely encourage using sampling to sort of throttle that down to make sure you're only capturing things that are really important for your environment, or that you're getting enough data to understand what's going on. This module is a little less interactive. It's more talk through. If I came in and set a 25% sample rate, that's what it would look like for sampling errors. But we also have sampler functions that you can use or a trace sample. We let you define a trace sampler that you can use to change the sampling functionality based on what's coming through. So for example, if I wanted to capture everything from the payments URL, I could do that here, but maybe I only want to capture 5% for things coming to admin. Makes a lot of sense, right? You don't necessarily want to sample a ton of data from your admin panel when it's mostly user traffic coming through. So this lets you get pretty flexible on how you sample errors. The same things apply roughly to things like replays. So I can come in and configure replays and set up sample rates for those. This code samples a lot of data. I got to fix that. But you can go in and configure these same things. All of this is available in docs, and all the replay configurations are available in here. So you can use this to go in and dig into exactly what sample rate makes sense for you, and configure that inside of your app. So sample rate's really important, especially in traces where you get a lot of traffic coming through at any given time. So definitely make sure that you're configuring sample rates as needed. Something else we want to talk a little bit about is around alerts. So I always recommend people get these set up early on, mostly because understanding like what's happening inside your environment is obviously very useful. Now, alerts inside of Sentry are interesting because we have a lot of different options here. So if I go into my issues view and I go into alerts and I do create alert, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You see, there's a lot of things that we can capture alerts off of. We can capture off of issues, right? So as new issues come in, and how we want to configure those. And then we can get into these performance ones that are really useful. So you can look at spans. So as we create traces, maybe there are ones that have specific metrics on it. You can use alerting to set up alerts around certain values on those. So if you see transactions going less, if you see errors happening more, if you see your average sale price from a store going down, all of these things are things that you can create alerts around using the performance one. So if I came in here into conditions, I can choose spans. I can do a count, I can choose, or I can do an average, right? And I can choose an average from any of these values. So like in my case, if I wanted to do the store one, I would find that property in here. Maybe I don't want to do a store one. Maybe I want to look at maximum token usage inside of generative AI apps. So if these start to go up or down, I want to be able to be notified on it, right? Like these are all alerts that we can configure. We can choose how to filter this down. So you might not want to capture this for your development environment. You might want to only capture it for your production environment. So being able to come in and configure that here. I like, for the most part, doing percentage changes here because I like to understand, like, how much of a change am I seeing inside of an environment? If it's consistent, that's good. If it starts to go outside of the bounds of consistency, then I want to be notified on it. Some people like a static, right? If latency is ever over 150 milliseconds, I want to know about it. That's totally valid. Anomaly is really cool, and we added anomaly somewhat recently, but we can choose a little bit how attentive we are to like that anomaly detection. So I do a medium, and I can come in and say, hey, I only want to look at it if it's an anomaly above bounds. I like this. I used anomaly alerting when GPT-5 came out, and I wanted to understand, hey, is my token usage going to blow out of the water, or am I going to see a lot more of it? And naturally, I did get alerted because GPT-5 is pretty token hungry. And so this is really useful for like areas where you want to understand, like, things look weird now. Things are changing inside of this environment, and I want to be notified around it. So anomaly alerting is really good. And then you can choose what you want to do about it. Like, do you want to get just an email? Do you want to have a linear issue get created automatically? This is another integration that we use a ton. So being able to have it go and create a linear issue for someone to go and research, absolutely a good thing. And coming in here and being able to configure the defaults for it. It's like, this is from my linear environment. I can come in and say, for this project, I want it to go to the unborked project. What status do I want it to be at first? I'm going to have it go into the backlog initially, and then I'm going to have it set as an urgent priority because these are errors that are coming through. And so this whole wizard becomes something that you can layer on a lot of really good things for alerting around. So that's the high level of alerts, but there's one more alert that I want to really focus in on. And if we back out and go into create alert, it's uptime. Log alerting is also really cool. You can dig in here and have it look at different logs and build alerts off of them. Big fan of that. Uptime monitoring is great. We can't necessarily set it up entirely inside of this project right now because I'm running it on localhost. You get one uptime monitor included in your Sentry environment. You can add more, obviously. It will automatically create an uptime monitor for you for external URLs by default. Actually, if I go in and switch projects real quick, I can probably show one for an app that I host externally. Go in here, go into alerts. Oh, it didn't set it. Oh, I have it disabled. So, but I can actually go and set it up in here anyways. So we'll go in, we'll set up an uptime monitor. We'll go set conditions. I can go to HTTPS shipbuilder.app. And this is the URL for my application. I'm going to choose production. I'm going to have it do a git against it every 1 minute, default header values. I'm not going to allow sampling in my case. Uptime monitor for shipbuilder. We'll set this to build with code and create our rule. And now in a few minutes, it's going to pop up and show that the service is up and running, provided I didn't actually crash it anytime recently. But that is as easy as it is to go and get uptime monitoring set up inside of an environment. It's pretty straightforward. Oh, I need to go and turn on budget for it. So no, I don't get to show uptime monitoring, unfortunately. Daniel has a question. I, for example, tested a game for someone that used Sentry, and I got an error related to this process will not allow the profiler to attach. Does that happen because of internal read-write permissions? Profiling is a little bit more an advanced topic, but you do have to set up profiling in a very specific way, and you have to attach it in a specific way. And so likely that was not necessarily set up. I don't think it was probably read-write permissions, Daniel. It's probably just configuration of the profiler and how it attaches to the functions inside of the code. I actually see that a lot on when we do like inspection of websites to help fix things for people. Like we'll see the profiler error, exactly the one that you're talking about there. So we talked through uptime monitors and configuring those. We've gone in and talked about replays, but if we take a look at our replays right now, go back in here, we'll switch back to our view that we created earlier. And we're going to actually back to the last hour. Cool. If we go and look at this, we'll see there's a lot of information that's hidden from us. Now, again, we do this for PII reasons to make sure that we're only showing relevant information that helps you debug a problem. But there are times where you want to see more of this. In the guide, I give a bunch of examples on how to unpack this to show more, but I'm going to do the kind of the wholesale approach right now of just opening up all of it so you can see all of the data instead. So I'm going to come into instrument on the front end. I'm going to find that replay integration, and I'm going to drop this command in, but I'm going to say false on masking text and masking inputs. And now when I save this and I go in and I reload the application again, we'll go in, look around. Daniel, there was a failure initializing profiling API attached infrastructure. So I think you're right. Sentry Edition was done later than sooner in the project. No problem, Daniel. Always love the engagement. Thanks for jumping in. So I'm going to refresh this a couple times. We're going to log out again, log back in. Cool. That's all set. Now, if I go into Sentry and we go into explore replays, we should have caught one very recently. Do FE live stream. Might not have loaded up yet. Yeah, still hasn't quite loaded up yet. Sometimes they take a little bit to process and show up entirely. Let's go do a quick refresh again inside of the project. We'll refresh, sign out, refresh again, sign in, come up here and do search, test. Cruising up on the end of time, and I'd really like you to be able to see what a full replay looks like without. I went still a little while back. Let's go 1 minute. There it goes. So it just got appended to the existing one for now, but you can see now that we've unpacked it in a second here. It's going to transition. This is part of the pain of running locally. You can see this is now a full-blown replay of seeing exactly what the user is seeing inside of the app and like the areas they're clicking into. And so in a second, it's going to show me type in and search. You see the error that they get. I can see all of that unmasked now on the right side, and all that data is available. Duck, can you quickly share about tracing, especially distributed tracing, and can it connect to logs? I can answer that very quickly. It's a little bit more complicated. We do tracing workshops quite a bit, and so like those details get explored pretty often. But I'm going to head back into logs real quick just to answer Duke's question. I'm going to come into my logs. I'm going to go back the last hour. We see a bunch of stuff in here. By default, all of our logs are trace connected. And so the way we set up our logging is so that every one of these has a trace on the back end. Duke's asking about distributed tracing. And so what distributed tracing is the connection between multiple different systems. And so Sentry has a ton of really useful tracing functionality built into it. And what you can do is you can actually see the connection flow as it hits your front end service all the way down to your back end services. Now, with logs, this gets really interesting because when you check out a trace connected log, you can see exactly in the distributed trace where that issue is happening at. So the one I just clicked on relates back to this course failing. The course is failing to load in the search. And so every trace that we have inside of here is automatically, or every log we have is automatically trace connected. And so these things do layer on top of each other quite a bit. And so these are all set up. And now if I come in, I can expand all of these out, and I can actually go all the way down. I mentioned this at the beginning, and see the database instrumentation also. And so because I've set up distributed tracing, I can look at this and I can see the front end login route hit where the user came in and hit the login. I can see it call the APIs on the back end as it successfully does the login and gets the first set of courses through. But when the user came in and started to do a search, it had an error. I can see when that error happened. If I double click, I can see that span was the problem. And then I can continue down the trace and see the individual actions that took place beyond here. So as it went in and did a search, I can see it go in, look up the categories. I can see the exact query that was used, the database performance, and I can pop into the dashboards view over here, into insights rather. I can jump into my backend insights, and I can see all of this performance here too. If I go into queries, I can see all of these database calls and exactly how they're performing inside of my environment. So the idea behind Sentry is to make it very easy to find all of these things that might be breaking your application and give you that context very quickly. And so being able to bring all this stuff up and see very, very quickly, hey, here's all the queries in my environment, their exact performance and how I need to work on them is a really good thing. In my case, I can see this is a Postgres database. I can do the same thing for front end performance as well. And so if I go into front end, I can see things like the Web Vitals score for this application. I can tab in here and I can see more detail around this. This is not a great app. I've got pretty bad large contentful paint, pretty bad first contentful paint, but the rest of this is pretty decent. And so it becomes like very quick to be able to get tangible areas that you can actually fix inside of these applications using Sentry. So I can see performance in here, P50 span, P75 span, Sentry Machine Spirit, right? And I can dive into all of these transactions and get more information. So like I can see the front end route is definitely meh. So if I click into this, I'm able to start diving in. I can click and drag in specific areas and start to see exactly what was happening inside of this time frame. Are distributed traces useful for distributed monoliths, or would it only be useful in disparate microservices? I think it's super useful for distributed monoliths. Most of my repos have always, like, I largely use monolith repos that end up being distributed. Like I'm a fan. Definitely, and honestly, even non-distributed system tracing is still useful for. Because being able to see the communication flow even within an internal application is still useful. You get a lot more out of it when it's distributed, obviously, because like if you have this front end that's connected like 3 different API, redundant APIs in the background, there's a lot of data you can get out of that. Definitely super, super useful.
excuse me, and very easy to get set up and going. It's like one of those like low effort to start, high return on investment things. So cool. We got pretty far in. We didn't get into the deeper performance monitoring bits. We touched on it a little bit, but we got into replays, and you're able to see how to expose those. But inside of this 1 hour, if you went in and replicated this inside of your own environment, you would have a pretty solid foundation to troubleshoot off of and debug off of. Right. We even got down into setting up like the MCP to go in and pull in fixes for issues. We can see that error was happening for the search. The same thing I did earlier applies here, right? So I can come in, I can grab this URL, drop back into cursor and say, new tab here, fix this issue, paste that in, and it's going to go and start looking through Sentry, pulling in data on how to fix it. One last thing I'll show. We have 56. We have just a couple minutes. The other thing I really like in early day Sentry and early getting started is to come into like the MCP and say, can you show me all the database performance for my Academ BE live stream project? I spelled it wrong, so I included that there. The MCP will take like these natural language queries and go look in Sentry, pull those out, and you can actually return them right here inside of like cursor. And then you can tell cursor, hey, can we dig into this API and figure out why it's broken, or this database query, is there a way for me to optimize it? So really like what we care about is making sure we can like do this loop of troubleshooting and fixing problems really fast. The whole idea of like code breaks, fix it faster. We don't necessarily need you to go and use the automated solution that Seer gives you. What we care about is giving you the data so that you can actually go and fix it. So this is running through now. Looks like it's getting the database calls together, just taking a little bit of time. As this is loading up, any other questions in the chat? Cool. No one's popping up yet. We'll let this run. It's querying the specific traces. You can see it's pulling in these to Sentry, MCP, work with self-hosted Sentry. I believe the standard IO. No, actually, no. I think the MCP is only for the SaaS version. So unfortunately not. If you work with live shares, will Sentry functionality still be possible, or can it cause bugs and errors because there are more than people working on it? No, it'll just, what you'll see, Daniel, is, so like if we were live sharing, let's use like Miro as an example. Miro is one of those like live sharing things, right? Each one of us is going to be connected to the application, and we're going to be tracking our own performance individually. These are all going to roll up into the same parent issue. Oh, live share as in a VS Code plugin. I don't know in that case. Not sure on that one. So we can see the slowest trace is this one here. If I click on this and open it up, it'll drop me right into Sentry and take me straight to that one that's performing poorly. That's pretty cool. But I also get these. I see a table up here of the poor performing ones. So a lot of mine are connection pool issues that need to be resolved. All right, we are at time. We got through a ton of stuff. Would have loved to have done more. We're going to do these. We do these pretty often. We also do live streams a lot. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Cody D. Arkland. Always down to answer any questions. I love making people successful at all of this stuff. Or reach out to me, Cody at Sentry.io. Happy to help you. But thanks for hanging out with us today and taking your first steps in Sentry. Have a good one, everyone.